Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning in. As always, I'm Spin09, and today I'm going to show you my Naruto Shippuden Ultimate Ninja War suggestions video. In here, I'm going to showcase 5 major suggestions which I believe to be very important in designing a new Naruto game in the Naruto franchise. And of course, this video is dedicated to Bandai Namco and CyberConnect2 in hopes that this will be a project that they will consider and perhaps develop themselves in the coming future. Now, before we start, yes, I designed this Naruto Shippuden Ultimate Ninja War logo. And I did it because I want to make this video as authentic as possible. Now I'm going to present you the 5 suggestions I have in this video. If you like these suggestions, please don't hesitate to give this video a thumbs up and share it with everyone else, because we need to stand together if we want to have a change in this Naruto community. So without further ado, let's get right into the suggestions. Suggestion number 1. In terms of setting the basis for an entire new game, I've decided to suggest that this entire new game needs to be a multiplayer game only. Meaning that we focus entirely on developing the versus mode, so that we have better mechanics and better gameplay in general. So this means that we don't have to have any story mode, no adventure mode, because these are the things in which CyberConnect2 and Bandai Namco have focused entirely on before, which therefore has put the previous versus mode on a different level of priority, meaning that it didn't get all the attention that it really needed in terms of being perfectly balanced and fluid when it comes to gameplay. I highly encourage CyberConnect2 and Bandai Namco to be inspired by previous arcade games, so that we get a game that is entirely focused on being a versus mode game, so that we can focus on every aspect of the fighting mechanics, the engines, characters, movesets, jutsus, everything, so that we have what is necessary to be in a perfectly balanced game. Now this is where we need to pay attention, because we've already had Storm Generations, but that wasn't entirely a versus mode game. It also had some kind of storytelling and story mode with different anime pictures, which I think, unfortunately, is quite redundant in this type of game. This is not to say that the Naruto storyline is not funny or is not entertaining, because it is, but we need to have a game that focuses entirely, 100% on developing the perfect versus mode game. And if that means we can't have a story mode, adventure mode or the like, then I would rather much see that than have a game that is not completely developed and we have something that is not working as a whole. So this is why I say this has to be an only versus mode, with absolute improved mechanics, characters, movesets and so on. Suggestion number 2. Now that we talk about a multiplayer game only, we also need to focus on the online mode. And in this case, I suggest that we make a new battle point system. Something that encourages players to actually play and keep playing in a system that encourages players to compete on a whole new level. I say that we should update the system so that one can acquire BP during the matches, so that if people rage quit, you can actually get points even though that the players disconnect. And this is very important, because having experienced the previous games myself and having experienced players disconnecting during matches, it's quite demotivating to play against players who do that. So by enabling the players to get BP responding to their actions, of course, during the matches, we'll have something that motivates them to keep on playing and make them not care about if the players disconnect or not. And to make this suggestion work, I suggest that we get a system that registers the certain moves and actions that players do during the matches, and of course give points accordingly. In addition, while you can get BP during the matches, you can also get BP when you've won the matches. So this means that you are actually guaranteed to get BP during matches, of course only accordingly to what you do and what you manage during those matches. But overall it means that you are not getting a setback, you'll get BP accordingly to how you play, and thereby progress on the scoreboard list. I suggest in this case that this system can be responding accordingly to the system which is already incorporated into Storm 4, where you get certain items, kunais, medals and stuff like that, depending on what kind of moves you use, jutsus, ultimates and so on. So I think this is highly relevant to incorporate as well. As a last point within this suggestion, I suggest that we remove the ability to lose BP after you've lost a match online in ranked. Meaning that this is a new scoreboard system where you can only acquire BP and go through ranks accordingly. So this is important. There has to be no max BP setting for this to work, so that we can have a system that continuously keep players competing in a rank scoreboard system. In this way, the game will stay alive much longer, where people again will be able to compete accordingly. So in the end, by not having a max BP setting, where people can gain millions and millions and millions of BP without hitting a roof, people will constantly be able to compete on these scores, which thereby will make the game stay alive much longer, because people will continuously compete about who's the best in these ranks, and scoreboard points of course. Suggestion number 3. In terms of a multiplayer game only, I think it's highly appropriate to incorporate online tag teams, 3 players versus 3 for instance. And this should of course be based on the previous tag team system from Storm 4. Instead of having support characters only, and instead of only switching between characters, you also switch between players when playing. But this also means that only 2 players can play at a time, just like in Storm 4. Only 2 players are on the map constantly, where the support characters are waiting. But instead of support characters only, other players get switched in instead of that. Now this can only happen if the active player of the respective teams decides to switch with other players, or if they lose themselves. Then the process will automatically be that the other players get switched in. Now depending on how this works out in reality, on how long the gameplay will progress and how long a match will take, the health bars for instance may need adjusting. We may for instance only need 1 health bar per player. And depending on how everything else works out, we may also not need a round system, because it may take too long to win a simple battle. As a point to this, I suggest that once every player has been beaten, the game ends. I don't think that a round system for this would be appropriate, because this may take too long simply. Suggestion number 4. As a part of the online system, I suggest that we have an online clan system as well, where people can join each other and basically play together. We already see in the Naruto universe that there are so many clans joining in different villages, so this would also be highly appropriate, and it would make it much more easier for players to join each other and play for a common cause, so to speak. In this respect, it is highly relevant to incorporate clan battles as well, where people can compete against other clans in terms of battle points or other different kind of point sets that are fitting for this kind of system. So this will be a continuous race towards who's the number 1 clan. So this can also be the same as the traditional scoreboard with BP, but instead of a single player being displayed as number 1, a clan will be displayed as number 1. And overall, as a part of the clan system, I think it's highly appropriate to be able to create your own clan logo and identity, and basically create a community for your clan, where people can aspire to join each other and compete. If people should be able to create their own logo as such, like designing it from scratch within the game, or if they should be able to choose a standard clan logo from the Naruto universe, I don't know. But I think it's much more important to focus on the possibility of creating your own clan and having an identity assigned to it. Suggestion number 5, and this is a very important suggestion because, as we've seen in the previous Storm games, tons of content has been reused throughout the series, where the developers have constantly added something more, but it has not always been much they've been adding every time. In fact, unfortunately, many people believe that they are basically reusing too much of the previous games without innovating and such. They feel like they're buying the game over and over again, so to speak. So this is where I want to suggest that we update everything. They have the 3D models, they have different stages, but we need to have new characters, we need to have new movesets for every character, new stages of course, with new soundtracks, and of course, as I've said before, we need new fighting mechanics and features within this game. Now, what has been used already in Storm 4 is highly relevant to use as a basis for further development, but in general we need to have more content. We need to have new content most of all, so that we don't get bored of seeing the same over and over again. And of course, in terms of tournament modes, we need to have tournaments that can be set up by players in a more professional manner, where more than 8 players can join and of course spectate each other. We need spectating mode because now we focus entirely about the players themselves and not any storyline, not any adventure mode. This is about the players, and we need to be able to see each other playing so that we can learn and fight better in our own experience. Now, I also think that being able to unlock items, movesets and jutsus, ultimate jutsus, characters, and of course costumes and all that, customization, is very, very, very important now that we're focusing entirely about the versus mode, because now it's about the characters themselves, about the movesets, and so on. So I think it's highly relevant to incorporate this kind of system as you progress through the battle point system, so that you always have some kind of reward that motivates you to progress throughout the battle system and online system, of course. But in the end, this is designed to accommodate people to have something to use for their specific playstyle and usage of characters, of course. And this is where I say customization is the key to fun. But I'm not talking about only specifying what kind of clothing you have, or mask, or items you put on your characters. I would rather not see that compared to having the ability to change your moveset accordingly to what you see fit. If you want to have some kind of different quick attacks, or different combos, or different jutsus for your specific character as such, is highly more relevant and highly more important for players to use. Because when you play and you use different characters and content in general, you may over time experience that you grow a bit tired of it. So that having the ability to change what kind of items, movesets and the like you'd like to use enables the players to keep up the motivation towards playing the game all the time. Now, customization also enables a more competitive side of the game, meaning that players who are very experienced and very detailed in their selecting of movesets, characters and the like are able to select different presets they have made themselves against certain players, so that they can change in between playstyles and use of items, for instance, to accommodate different players and thereby have higher chances of winning. Customization, as I believe, is also a very vital aspect to have, at least in this magnitude. It's very important to have because it also enables a game to live on for much longer, because people will always have something to strive for, to keep on playing, because they won't have everything to begin with. And it makes it much more fun to play, because you're playing to get some rewards. Of course, there are many things that can be said about what should be important to incorporate into a game, and at least these are 5 points in which I believe to be very important in terms of making a multiplayer game only in the Naruto universe. So what do you guys think about this? Is this important? Do you like the idea of having a multiplayer game only, where the focus is entirely on the versus mode and thereby develop a perfect game? Or what do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section below. And of course, if you like these suggestions and the content in general, please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. And yeah, I hope to bring much more content in the near future where I do elaborated suggestions, videos, illustrations and concepts within gameplay mechanics, jutsus, movesets and so on. So yeah, please look forward to that in the near future. And as always, I'm Spinner09. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Ciao.